On September 2, 1998, Swissair Flight 111 left New York City for a planned final destination of Geneva, Switzerland. Unfortunately, shortly after takeoff, the crew experienced a smell in the cockpit and radioed a distress signal, which at the time indicated a problem, but not one that was felt to be a Mayday situation. The problem, however, did escalate into a serious fire, and the crew, who initially was to attempt a change in flight and land in Boston, was directed to Halifax Stanfield Airport, which was some 400 kilometers closer. They attempted a fuel dump at St. Margaret's Bay, approximately 30 kilometers short of the airport, but before they could continue to the airport, they lost all control, and an investigation showed later the cockpit literally was a melted mass of aluminum. There was nothing they could do. There were 229 passengers and crew on board. All perished. The captain had initially radioed a smell of smoke and sent a pan-pan distress signal. The instructions were to fly to the nearest airport, which ended up being Halifax Stanfield Airport, 400 kilometers closer than the preferred Boston Airport. The smoke, unfortunately, was symptomatic of something much larger, and soon an uncontrollable fire ensued. The captain attempted to put out the fire while the co-pilot attempted to maintain control of the fuel dump and proceed on course to the Halifax airport. Radio control was lost. Moments later, radar was lost. The valiant actions of the captain meant nothing as the fire spread throughout the wiring. All controls in the cockpit became a melted mass of aluminum, and control ultimately lost. The plane went down. Emergency calls went out immediately, and all available vessels merged on the site in the Cove, searching for whatever could be found to provide those on the ground answers to the nightmare and those in the air experienced. The front 33 feet of the plane was reconstructed, allowing investigators to determine that wiring in the entertainment system was most likely the initial cause of the fire. Once it had started, there was nothing the crew could do with what they had at the time. The initial recovery of parts of the wreckage concluded on October 21st, 1998. Only 27% of the vessel or of the aircraft had been recovered at that time. It was deemed that the winter months would prohibit any safe recovery, and it would be continued after the winter. By December 1999, close to 98% of the wreckage was collected and significant pieces put together, a scenario that they felt they had found. It is hard to imagine, and having spoken to some of the residents of Peggy's Cove, that those who were involved in the recovery are still themselves recovering for what they saw. The despair and anguish knowing there was nothing they could do, and knowing that each piece of clothing they recovered belonged to someone's loved one. The memorial was set up in honor of the passengers and crew, in honor of those who spent the night and days to follow recovering all they could. You can stand by the memorial and look out across the Cove and imagine the vast area of debris, of terror, and of sorrow. The quietness of the bay disrupted. There have been many assertions that this was the work of some terrorists, but none founded. Simply a wiring system, not vetted, that became the spark, that became the fire. There were even some who felt that they had not attempted a fuel dump that they would have been able to make it to the airport. Very unfair to the families of those that died. Because eventually it was determined that if not for the fuel dump, they still would not have made it to the airport, and instead would have crashed short of their destination into a highly populated area, resulting in an unforetold number of casualties. One only has to remember what happened with the train in the small Quebec town of Lac-Mégantic to know exactly what that would have meant. The pilot and co-pilot in this case were heroes of incredible proportion. Remembering Swissair Flight 111.